is Arminda, and I am the director and, more importantly for right now, dramaturg for this presentation. EULALIE Spence is a playwright who lived in Harlem mostly and set most of her works in Harlem during the period that we call the Harlem Renaissance. Her works were published in The Crisis and Opportunity, mostly, which were the main publishing venues for Harlem Renaissance writers. And so she really is a writer of in the Harlem Renaissance, but she is not quite of the Harlem Renaissance. And by what I mean is that she is not, you will not find EULALIE Spence in the salons of the Harlem Renaissance, socializing with Zora and Langston Hughes and County Cullen and that glittering group, seeking patrons, starting up literary publications. She is not there. Those writers had mostly immigrated to New York, and so had she, but they had come as adults, seeking a life in the arts, while she came as an 8-year-old with her mom and dad and 4 younger sisters, soon to be 5. The Spence family moved around quite a bit. They immigrated in 1902 and stopped off first on 135th Street before moving to Brooklyn sometime before 1905. By 1910, they were back in Harlem. They stayed in Harlem for the next 10 to 15 years, though they moved at least 3 times in that period. They stayed in Harlem long enough for Spence to complete the first leg of her schooling, where she graduated from the Wadley High School for Girls and the New York Training School for Teachers. And in 1918, she began her teaching career. She also began performing with the Columbia University Players and taking classes in acting, directing, and playwriting. The next year, 1919, Spence lost her father, but the household had grown with a new brother-in-law and 3 nieces. Spence's teacher at Columbia suggested she take up elocution professionally, and she took that advice. After receiving those credentials, she began teaching elocution at the Eastern District High School in Brooklyn, where the family had relocated once again, having picked up another brother-in-law. In later years, Spence's niece would call her the backbone of her family. It was not a role that left her a great deal of time to mingle in Harlem with the luminaries. Had her family found its way to Washington, D.C. instead of Harlem, Spence might have found herself more at home with the women in that group, women like May Miller, Marita Bonner, Mary Burnhill, Georgia Douglas Johnson. Many of those women were also teachers. Many of them subscribed to Alain Locke's theory of art as a way to show authentic Black life without the emphasis on propaganda. But while Spence did correspond with Locke, who included one of her plays in his 1927 anthology, and that play was The Starter, which we'll see tonight, she would not have much time to travel to Washington either. The time that Spence had available was dedicated to the theater. The theater, she said, will always possess a great attraction for me. Acting, play production, writing of plays, it is indeed hard to say which holds the greater lure. And so, when the Harlem Renaissance kicked into gear with the public, especially with The Crisis and Opportunity magazines, beginning playwriting contests, and W.E.B. Du Bois founding the Creois Players in Harlem in 1926, she was ready to take advantage of that opportunity. She had already at that point written 2 plays, The Starter in 1923 and a play called On Being 40 in 1924. And one of those plays had been produced already at the Lafayette Theater in 1924. That was On Being 40. And while she was not a perfect ideological fit for Du Bois and the Creois Players, she proved herself a valuable member, both as a performer and as a playwright. And she even brought 2 sisters, Doralyn and Olga, who acquitted themselves admirably. The Kirya players in the 2 seasons that she was with them, 1926 and 1927, they produced 3 of her plays. In 26, they produced Foreign Mail, which had received second prize in the Crisis magazine contest that year. It was a hit with the Amsterdam News, and Olga Spence, her youngest sister, was a hit as well. The next season, the Kirya presented 2 more plays, Her, a ghost story, and Spence's first and one of her few forays away from comedy, and Fool's Errand, one of her few plays that was set outside of New York in the South. The Kirya players also presented Fool's Errand in the 5th Annual International Little Theater Tournament, the first Negro Little Theater group to compete in that tournament. And that tournament made Spence one of the 4 Black playwrights to have a non-musical piece presented on a Broadway stage in the 1920s. Fool's Errand and the Kirya players did not take first prize, but they were one of 4 prize winners, which got them $200 cash from Samuel French for Outstanding Unpublished Play, and then Samuel French published the play. That triumph unfortunately led to the Kirya players' demise. The $200 was for the group, and Du Bois, as head of the group, decided to spend the money paying off group debts rather than parceling out to any of the actors or the author. This caused quite a bit of strife. And Du Bois eventually decided that he no longer had the time or inclination to continue his personal association with the players, a decision he announced in the pages of the New York Amsterdam News, while giving a little shade to the membership. In this exit interview printed, he said one of the difficulties he had was the number of young players who came to us with the idea that we were training actors for Broadway. They were looking to a career and earning a living on the stage and wanted to begin with me. Acting is a fine career, and we must all earn a living. But the object of a little theater is art, not money. It is to do a beautiful thing for the sake of the thing itself and not for its utility. It was difficult for the young folk to see this. They were a bit impatient for art's sake. Earlier that year, 27, Spence's play Undertow had won second prize in Crisis Magazine's contest, which would usually come with publication. But in early 1928, Du Bois returned that script to Spence, declining to publish it, saying it was too long for the magazine. And perhaps it was. Just as Spence's theater work didn't begin with Kirya, it did not end with its demise. She continued to have work produced in little theaters in and around New York, with the Bank Street Players in Union City, New Jersey, with Omega Sci-Fi's little theater in that was stationed at the Brooklyn YMCA, and also with the Lighthouse Players. She had a piece called La Divina Pastora, and it was performed in 1931 at the Booth Theater, which is a Broadway space, by the Lighthouse Players, which was a little theater group formed by the New York Association for the Blind. In 1933, she hired a literary agent, Audrey Wood, and acquired the dramatic rights to The Whipping, a novel by Robert Flanagan about a Southern white woman who runs afoul of the Klan. It was in the works to be produced in Connecticut with a popular Broadway actress in the lead when the production was suddenly canceled without explanation. And this experience seems to have finally soured Spence on a life in the theater, though she did option the play to Paramount Pictures for $5,000, which in the middle of the Depression was worth about $96,000 today. So she did all right. Anyway, at this point, she went back to school to finish she got a BS from NYU, and then she got her master's from Teachers College, and she continued to work at Eastern District High School as the elocution teacher and English teacher and drama coach, where, as some people know, eventually she ran into and became a formative mentor in the life of Joseph Papp. And one of these pictures, I don't know which side it's on, but one of these pictures is a picture of her from the 1943 yearbook in Eastern District High School. In 1928, Spence published one of her few non-plays, one of the few things that wasn't a play. What I found from her is mostly she wrote plays, she wrote a review of a play, and she wrote this essay called A Criticism of the Negro Drama as it Relates to the Negro Dramatist and Artist. She published this in Opportunity magazine. And while it does not directly address any of the issues of Kirya, it does not spill that tea, but it does take some aim at Du Bois's school of playwriting and drama. Unfortunately, she says, almost everyone thinks that he can write a play. Writers will grant the poet his form and the novelist his, the essayist his mold, and the writer of short stories his. However, when it comes to the play, why? One merely takes one's pen in hand and presto, we have dialogue. Here it is then that our Negro dramatists have failed to reach a larger and more discriminating public. They have labored like the architect who has no knowledge of geometry and the painter who must struggle to evolve the principles of perspective. May I advise these earnest few, these seekers of light, white lights, to avoid the drama of propaganda if they would not meet with certain disaster. Many a serious aspirant for dramatic honors has fallen by the wayside because he would insist on his lynchings or his rape. The white man is cold and unresponsive to this subject, and the Negro himself is hurt and humiliated by it. We go to the theater for entertainment, not to have old fires and hates rekindled. What then is left to the Negro dramatist? Let him portray the life of his people, their foibles, if he will, and their sorrows and ambition and defeats. Oh yes, let us have all of these told with tenderness and skill and a knowledge of the theater and the technique of the times. But as long as we expect our public, white and colored, to support our drama, it were wise to steer far away from the old subjects. A little more laughter, if you please, and fewer spirituals. So the pieces featured here represent, I believe, the heart of Spence's writing aims and vision. Two are comedies, so a little more laughter. But all are dedicated to portraying their characters with full and distinct humanity. All set in Harlem, they nonetheless represent very different and distinct walks of life. For the Hunch, we see some sporting life with lots of numbers and policy and people kind of living on the edge and not quite able to make things meet, as well as a newcomer trying to make sense of the city, to adjust to its ways, to figure out who to trust and how to fit in. In some we have working class. That would be The Starter, her first play, and our last, which has working class people who are subject to strikes and union dues and occasional layoffs. We have in The Undertow some seemingly middle class, fairly stable financially people, but no more secure. And while each piece specifies the circumstances, each individual circumstance, what is of primary concern to Spence are the relationships forged and unforged, the decisions made and not made, the lives being created, remade, or destroyed. And she does this, I believe, with tenderness before our eyes. Enjoy. Harlem, evening in summer. The living room in Mrs. Reed's apartment, which Mavis Cunningham rents for considerably more than she can afford. Pretty undergarments are lying about on chairs. 2 pairs of new shoes are on the table. Several light summer wraps and sweaters are lying across the foot of the bed. Mavis is packing her trunk.
Everybody loves my baby, but my baby don't love nobody but me.
She goes to the mirror, holding an evening dress up against her body.
Not so bad, honey, not so bad.
There is a knock on the door.
Come in.
Mrs. Reed waddles in. She flops into the wing chair as soon as Mavis has rescued 2 pretty hats.
Well, you're pretty near packed, ain't you?
Almost. Did you go to the movies?
Yeah. Seen the Volga Boatman. Place was jammed.
Like it?
Yeah, it's pretty good. Say, them poor Russians weren't treated no better than niggers, was they?
Not a bit.
When did you see the picture?
A couple of weeks ago at the Strand, Bert took me.
Bert Jackson's a regular daddy, ain't he?
Say, you don't have to tell me.
Reckon you knows it well, nah? Seeing as you gonna marry him tomorrow. Say, you don't seem least bit excited.
Maybe outside I ain't, Miss Reed. But inside, everything is just jumping and singing, and I can hardly sit still.
I sure don't blame you none. I knows how you feels.
I feel a little scared too. Think that I'm lonesome. I ain't lonesome really. Only every once in a while I get to thinking about my mom and my sister Helen back home in Raleigh. I didn't write them about getting married till yesterday. You know, Miss Reed, there's plenty of things that can happen to break up a wedding, especially in Harlem.
You ain't telling me.
And so I waited till the very last minute till I was sure.
You done just right. You can't be sure of no man these days till you's got the wedding ring on your finger. Reckon there ain't nothing slow about Bert Jackson either.
Well, he's mine.
Yeah, there's a plenty woman chasing him right now.
They're not gonna get him.
You ain't known him long, has you?
Only 4 weeks.
Well, that's pretty quick. Sure enough. But I was heard tell quicker. It don't do no good to keep him hanging too long. What's become of that fella used to follow you around? The one you's always ducking.
Steve? Steve's all right. Only he ain't the kind of fella I could ever love. He knows I'm to marry Bert. I told him yesterday. Say, that reminds me, you know that long distance call I got last night from Philly? Well, it was Steve. He called me up to ask me to put a number in for him. Can you beat it? I didn't even know he was out of town. The money that boy wastes on numbers sure is a sin.
Did you play it for him?
Oh, sure, this morning. Guess. He asked me to put it in 2 different places, 50 cents on each. Steve's been playing that one number more than a month now. $1 a day, sometimes 2. He hopped over to Philly yesterday and forgot to put it in. He said he can't trust nobody else to do it, only me. You know, Miss Reed, if you don't hand these agents the money forehand, you ain't got no kick coming when they don't pay you.
Well, you might have told me the number. Suppose it had come.
Steve's numbers don't ever come. He ain't got no luck. He a fool wasting all that money.
If he keeps it up, honey, it's bound to come sometime. It's when you drop some that they comes right out. What number Steve playing?
271.
Oh! 271? My God! Woman, you're crazy. Crazy in love, nutty.
What? What's the matter?
You stand there and tell me you don't know 271 hit today?
271? You sure, Miss Reed?
So if you ain't crazy, I'd like to know. Ain't half of Harlem seen it written on the sidewalks? Ain't you seen it in front of Joe's?
I forgot to look.
How much you had on it for yourself?
Nothing.
Oh!
I don't play him no more. Bert's an agent, but I don't ever play. I ain't got no luck. I play 50 cents with Bert for Steve.
Well, if you ain't a fool, living right here in the house with me and never saying a word to me, we could have cleaned up.
You were sleeping when I went out this morning.
Oh.
Gee, what a shame.
Say, I hope you ain't fool enough to hand over all that money to Steve.
But why, yes, Miss Reed. What you mean? It ain't my money. It belonged to Steve.
Like hell it does. Not. He didn't put that money right in your hand, did he? No. Well, he ain't got nothing to back up his case with. How's he gonna prove you put that number in? You'd be a darn fool to put that money in your pocket. Not to put the money in your pocket. Oh, God, you got me so... Didn't you tell me the other night you ain't got a cent? There ain't nobody knows about this but me. And for $50, my mouth stays shut the rest of my days. What you say?
Nothing doing. I ain't never played no skin game yet. It's crooked, that's what.
Crooked? Say, who you think plays the game on the level anyhow? This ain't no square game. Everybody knows that.
Ain't no use talking, Miss Reed. That money belonged to Steve. He'll be lucky enough if he can collect off them fly bankers. That's all I'm worried about.
You pass up 500, and you ain't going to get married and ain't got no money?
I couldn't be happy knowing I done Steve out of that money. He's always treated me on the level, and he said he couldn't trust nobody but me to put that number in. Well, that's that. I'm only helping them bankers pay off.
The doorbell rings.
Oh, downstairs. Door's open. Well, I just got to see that money in Steve Collins's own hands, for I believe you could be such a fool.
A loud knock. Mavis opens the door. Mitchell enters, carrying a briefcase.
Mrs. Reed, Mr. Mitchell. Mr. Mitchell, my landlady.
Delighted.
Pleased, I'm sure.
Well, I thought you'd be phoning me long for now. What's the matter? You don't look the least bit excited. 5 cents ain't so bad, but 50? Whoa! Some haul. I tell the world. Only had a nickel on it myself. Well, Mavis, you can't say I ain't treated you right.
He opens the briefcase and puts a package of money on the table.
It's awful good of you to bring it up so soon, Mitchell.
Well, I don't grudge that boy nothing. He's been plunging for more than 2 months. Ha! Steve's game. You should have put something on it yourself, Mavis. That's what I always do. Only a little, you know, but it helps.
Did many people hit?
No, hardly anybody hit. The number wasn't no favorite. It sure surprised me Steve stuck to it so long. Well, you can't never tell.
All the bank is paying off on 271.
Sure, why?
Nothing.
So, you's gonna get hitched tomorrow.
Yes, wish me luck, Mitch.
All the luck in the world, kid. Bert's a lucky guy.
I had a dream last night. Wish I'd known how to play it.
Why don't you see Aunt Sally? If she can't tell you straight, nobody can.
She ain't been telling me straight for some time. Reckon I needs another dream book.
Ah, there ain't none like Sally. Now, what you dream?
I dream Ed and me, Ed's my first husband. I dream Ed and me was lying in bed.
Is he dead?
Been dead 5 years.
That's 9.
The door opened, and in walks Joe, my second husband. Looking mad to hell.
Is he dead too?
Yeah, died last year.
That's 2. Your number's 295. Play the combination and you can't lose.
Well, maybe I'd better.
Mrs. Reed counts out some change and hands it to Mitchell, who writes out a slip, gives her the original, and pockets the duplicate.
Yes, I'll be hopping along. Got plenty of stops to make. Anything for you, Mavis?
Not tonight, Mitch.
Well, so long.
I reckon I ought to play one above and one below. 296 and 294. Miss Harley told me last night that's how she come to hit. Play one above and one below. Oh, well, maybe it won't come out no how. My luck show is gone back on me. Gee, it don't seem right that we ain't getting a cent out of all that money. You won't take my advice, Mavis, but you'll be sorry. See if you ain't.
The doorbell rings.
Maybe it's Bert.
She runs to the mirror. There is a knock on the door, and Miss Reed opens it to admit Bert Jackson.
Come right in, Mr. Jackson.
Hello. Hot enough for you?
He takes Mavis in his arms and kisses her twice.
You some chic, ain't you?
What's the matter, Miss Reed? Jealous.
Who, me? Don't you believe it, honey. This baby gets all the loving she can stand, and don't you forget it.
Oh, I see you almost through packing.
Almost.
Oh, hello. Look at the coin. Somebody's rich around here.
I wish for God we was.
It's Steve's money. Mitchell was up and paid off.
Oh, say Mavis, I've had the devil's own luck.
Why, Bert? What happened? Sit down and tell me.
There's nothing hurts me more than the hard luck story. You know that slip I wrote Steve's number on? Well, would you believe it? When I got to Miller's this morning, I found I didn't have Steve's slip. Hunted everywhere, called up home, and my landlady couldn't find it neither. Well, then I called you, and the operator said the line was busy.
And you didn't remember it, Bert? You might have remembered when I only told you one number.
Give me a chance, will you, honey? That's just what I tried to do. Near as I could remember, it was 217. I remember the figures, but I clean forgot how you had them fixed.
And you didn't play nothing? You might have played the combination, Bert.
That's just what I did do. I put a dime on each. Of course, I never had an idea 271 would hit. Too bad. I might have had something on it myself. Here you are, 67 to the good.
I know it's the truth.
It's too bad about that slip, Bert. I can't see how you come to lose it. Oh, I reckon Steve would be sore.
Oh, Steve ain't got no kick coming. He done pretty well, I should say.
Indeed he has. I was just telling Mavis she's a fool handing over all that money to Steve.
Say, Mavis, how much Steve make anyhow?
I don't know. I haven't counted.
Mr. Mitchell paid off on 50 cents, and you just paid off on a dime.
Oh, Steve ain't got no kick coming, I say. Mrs. Reed, I'd like to speak to Mavis alone.
I got you. I'll just drop in for a minute anyhow. Thought Mavis might need some help with her packing. See you in the morning, Mavis.
All right. Good night. Oh, darned old busybody. Wonder if she planned to stay here all night.
She don't mean no harm, Bert. Let's forget about her.
She pulls him down and kisses him.
And tell me something, Bert. I'm down to know.
What?
Where we going, Bert? You ain't tell me no plans.
And I ain't telling you none neither. Didn't I say it was going to be a surprise?
But Bert.
We're going to a little place in Jersey. Now, don't ask me where, but I ain't telling you.
Plenty of colored people.
Oh, nothing different. Wouldn't go no place else.
It ain't Asbury Park? Atlantic City?
I said a little place, didn't I?
Anyway, I'm going to love it. How long we gonna stay, Bert?
A week, maybe 2 weeks, if you like it.
I love it. But Bert, what about my trunk? I don't know where to send it.
Oh, I'll send a fella for it first thing in the morning. He'll have a label ready. Don't worry. This is my surprise, and I ain't gonna have it spoiled. Are you through packing?
I don't need to do no more tonight.
Come on then. Let's beat it. I'm hungry.
Where we going, Bert?
Any place you say. How's Bamboo Inn?
Suits me.
The doorbell rings.
I wonder if it's for me.
Oh, ain't you had enough callers for one evening?
Well, I ain't staying in for nobody.
Maybe it's Steve coming to Bankers Monday. Wonder what took him to Philadelphia. He didn't say, did he?
Important business, he said.
A knock on the door. Mavis admits Steve Collins.
Hello, Mavis. Thought I'd find you here, but I wasn't sure.
Well, I suppose you heard the good news, Steve.
You mean 271?
Yes.
Gotta thank you for that, kid. I met Mitchell on the way here and he told me he'd been, You know what, Mavis? When I left Philly this evening, I was dead broke.
Poor old Steve.
Poor nothing. I got $500 to the kid. Thanks to you. I'm unlikely to forget that in a long time.
Steve, I got something to tell you.
Wait a minute. I gotta tell you something too. Bet you don't know what took me down to Philly.
No.
Give a guess.
Can't imagine. What?
I had a hunch, see? And I followed it. I never yet passed up a hunch. No, sir. Well, I had a hunch about something and it led me straight to Philly and I come across something that near knocked me silly. Wait a minute and I'll show you.
Steve ushers in Lucinda. Without waiting for an invitation, she sits rather heavily.
Excuse me, I couldn't stand another minute. Guess you better introduce me, Mr. Collins.
Mavis, this is Miss Bert Jackson.
Pleased to meet you, I'm sure.
Reckon you don't need no introduction to your own husband, Miss Jackson?
Well, Bert, you sure don't look overjoyed to see me.
Mavis runs up to Bert and clutches his arm.
It ain't true. Why don't you tell it a lie, Bert? Say it ain't true.
For God's sake, let's be sensible and cut out all the fancy acting. You ought to be caged, no fooling. This ain't the first time you tried this stuff, but it's gonna be the last time I bother saving you. You ought to be jailed, no fooling. They ain't got enough women in Harlem for you to be... They ain't got enough women in Harlem without you staging another one of these fake weddings. I'd let them send you up for bigamy. I sure oughta.
Bert, say it ain't true.
Say, I'm sorry for you, kid, but it's all in the game. You ain't got nothing to cry about. Take it from me. Bert's a no-good skunk if there ever was one. Mr. Collins here, make a dozen Berts with plenty left over to spare. He paid me $50 to come over here and put you wise. Bert ain't all there, if you ask me. Well, I'm going, Mr. Collins. Guess there ain't nothing else I can do around here.
Don't you want to take along your daddy?
Be your age. Say, kid, have a good time and don't be rushing after no husband. Take it from me. I didn't pick no daisy. I'll tell the world.
I'll get you for this. You dirty sneak. Get out of here, quick, before I knock you clean through that window.
I don't believe you, but say it again.
Oh, clear out, I tell you.
Suppose we put it up to Mavis.
Get out, both of you.
Oh, let me stay, Mavis. You ain't give me no chance to set things right. I gotta explain.
You had your chance to explain, and you didn't take it. Now beat it, both of you.
I'll go, Mavis. I know you're sore at what I done, but I couldn't have done no different. I knowed Bert weren't on the level.
How do you know so much? You ain't never told me nothing.
Small chance I would have had making you believe. Well, I had a hunch, and a fella gave me a tip about going to Philly.
What fella?
Roy Davis, a fella you done out of some number of money. Well, he had it in for you and squealed. That's all.
Davis lied. I ain't never done nobody out of no money.
Well, I ain't got no kick coming long as it comes across with my dough. This is my winnings, Mavis?
Yes, that's what was given me. Mitchell paid up on 50 cents, but Bert said he lost his slip and couldn't remember the number. He only played the combination for 10 cents.
But you gave him the 50 cents? You seen him write down the number?
Yes, I got my duplicate.
You don't believe you lost that slip, do you, Mavis?
You know I ain't no thief, don't you, Mavis?
Steve has backed up against the door and drawn a revolver.
Put your hands up and be damn quick about it. Up with him, or by God, I'll rip your pockets open with the first shot. Now, Mavis, look through his pockets. I got a hunch some money's laying right in his pocket. Hold this gun, Mavis, and I'll do the looking. You owes it to him, Mavis, to prove that I'm wrong.
Very reluctantly, Mavis takes the gun from Steve and keeps it aimed at Bert.
Drop that gun, Mavis. I'm being robbed.
Steve holds up a roll of bills.
I knew it.
That's mine. That's my money.
Steve takes the gun from Mavis and hands her the money.
Count it.
I'll get you for this. I'll get you for this.
Next time you see me, you'd better run. How much, Mavis?
$183.
Put it on the table. Now you skip along, big boy, and watch your step. Try any funny business, and your friends will be playing your hearse number for the week's out. Keep out of my way, and don't let me see you hang around Mavis.
Bert slinks out of the room. Steve returns the revolver to his pocket. He goes up to the table and takes up several bills.
50-50. I've got mine, Mavis, and here's yours. Better put it away.
Think I'd touch a cent of it?
Well, why not? Half's yours. Say who played this number for me anyway.
I wouldn't touch a cent. I had enough trouble about that money. Pick it up and clear out.
Can't do neither one. The money's yours, and I ain't gonna leave you here to cry your eyes out. Nothing doing.
You done it all. You spoiled everything. You think I hate Bert, don't you? Well, I don't. See, I love him.
You love him now, knowing everything?
Yes, and hate you.
All right. If you love him, go ahead and have him. His wife don't care none. I wasn't gonna see him put anything over on you, that's all. God, but you women are queer.
Mavis slips out of her smock. She puts on her hat and takes her pocketbook.
Where you going, Mavis?
To hell for all I care.
Come on, I'm with you.
I ain't gonna stand much more from you. Clear out, I tell you.
Nix. You're up against it, kid. That's why you feel that way. How do I know? Say, my head ain't all wood, and I've been up against it too, pretty near all my life. I like you, kid. Honest. First time I saw you, I knew you was on the level. I wouldn't have butted in if I had known you was on the level.
Wish I'd never seen you. I should have lied about putting that number in and gypped it all. Just like Bert was gypping some.
You couldn't do it, kid. Besides, you didn't need to. Half that money goes to you anyway.
I wouldn't touch a cent.
Bet you ain't got a cent. Spent all getting clothes for your wedding.
Mind your own business.
Bet you ain't got nothing to pay your room rent.
I wish to God I'd never seen you.
Well, you can't help it. You did see me. Say, you wouldn't marry me instead of Bert, would you?
You don't hate yourself, do you?
Well, all right. Now get this. You's planning to stay in here and cry your eyes out. Mrs. Riedel knows you've been jilted and ain't got no money.
It ain't none of your business.
Or maybe you's planning to go to Bert anyhow, in spite of what he's done to you.
It ain't none of your business what I'm planning to do.
I'm making it my business. If you goes to Bert, I'm going to empty that gun of mine on him, so help me God. He's angry and he's hurt. Sure, don't I know it? Now I got $500 and half of it's yours for being on the level and putting in that number for me. If I hadn't come, I'd have been broke, flat. Bert's wife got my last 50. Well, I'm flush now, see? You take what's coming to you, kid, and buck up. Forget about Bert and have a good time. Why don't you go home and see your folks for a spell?
I wish to God I could, but...
Well, start tomorrow. We're going 50-50 on this. Say, you didn't leave a boyfriend down in Raleigh, did you?
I could never pay you back.
You don't have to. Say, you know I'm dead gone on you, Mavis. You would never let me spend nothing on you when I took you out, and I never give you a present. Now you take that money and go home. I'll look after little Birdie and see you don't die of a broken heart.
Steve, you's a fool. You knows the chances are you won't never see me no more. I won't come back.
Ah, rot. Chances are you won't stay home a month. Why, kid, you couldn't stay away from Harlem on a bet. Not Harlem. No, sir. And say, if you ain't back in a month, don't be surprised to see little Stevie crossing the Mason-Dixon to see an old pal.
Steve, I can't go. I'm ashamed. I wrote to tell him I was going to get married. I didn't write till yesterday when I was sure. I can't go. I can't.
Mavis throws herself on the daybed and sobs, slow, body-racking sobs. Steve's hand goes into his pocket. Without a word, he moves toward the door. Mavis springs up, runs toward him, and seizes him by the arm.
Come back, Steve. You're just crazy to think such a thing.
I got her.
Steve, give me that gun.
No.
I'll go home, Steve. Honest. I'll do anything you say, for God's sake. Don't do no killing, Steve. Please. Steve.
All right.
You mean it?
I said all right, didn't I?
But I wish you'd smile, Steve. Your face don't look natural. Not smiling.
Well, what next?
Give me that gun, Steve.
He hands her the revolver. Mavis takes out the cartridges and puts the revolver into a drawer of her trunk.
Now you do something for me. Put some powder on your face and come on.
Where are we going, Steve?
We're going to a cabaret and we're going to dance and dance and then dance some more. I'm feeling thirsty too. I don't mean maybe.
What you laughing at, Steve?
I was just thinking, find the lucky guy hitting that number like that and everything. I had a hunch. Say Mavis. I have a hunch we're gonna have a bang up time. No fooling.
Got everything?
I'll tell the world I have.
All right, let's go.
And I don't mean maybe.
Harlem, about 8 o'clock one winter's night. The dining room in Hattie's private house. It is a cheerful room, never sunny, but well furnished and spotless, from shining floor to snowy linen. The supper dishes have been cleared away, but the table is still set for one who did not appear. Hattie is sitting at the head of the table, frowning heavily at the place of the one who did not appear. She drums impatiently with her fingers, then pushing her chair back with more violence than grace, rises. Her dark dress is covered by an apron which makes her look somewhat clumsy. Charlie bursts noisily into the room, dressed in an overcoat and hat of the latest mode.
I'm off, Ma.
So I see.
Say, Ma. Gee whiz. Ain't Dad been home for supper yet?
No.
That's funny. He ain't never stayed out before, has he?
Not since I married him. Except
what, Ma?
Except once before you was born.
And the old man ain't tried it since. Reckon you fixed him, did you? Huh, Ma?
I trained you half as well as I trained your dad. I should have made you stay in school for one thing.
Yeah, most sense, Ma. If you'd have bossed me like you bossed Dad, I'd have run away long from now.
There ain't no danger of Dan running off. You ain't got the nerve. Besides, nobody want him.
Nah, don't fool yourself, Ma. An easy simp like Dad be snapped up soon enough if he ever got in his head that he could do such a thing.
Dan's a fool, but he know which side his bread's buttered on.
Holy smoke.
What's eating you?
Nothing.
Never mind lying. What's on your mind?
Oh, nothing. I just thought of something, that's all. Say, Ma.
Yeah?
I gotta have $5 tonight. Need them bad.
It don't do no harm to need them. There's a plenty of things I was wanted that I ain't never got.
What the devil you think I can get it if I don't ask you?
You might work occasionally. Dan ain't been home a day these 25 years.
And you just calling him a fool, ain't you? The guys in my crowd don't do no work. See, we live by our brains.
Not by exercising them. Lord knows.
How come he thinks we hits the number every week? Brain work.
If you hit so often, what is always coming to me about money for?
That ain't like a woman. It takes money to make money.
Charlie, you just gotta cut out this gambling. I ain't gonna give you no more money.
You think I'm dad, don't you? Well, I ain't. I wish to God I knew what she's got over him. No free man would have ever stood your nagging all these years.
Damn one can't stand from my ways, knows what they can do.
Wouldn't surprise me none of dad has walked off.
What make you think so?
Reckon you like to know, wouldn't you?
Tain't likely what you could say is worth $5 to hear.
What I seen wouldn't have been worth nothing last week, but since dad ain't showed up for supper, it's worth a damn sight more. You'd never guess what I seen him doing one night last week up on Lenox Avenue.
Well, you might as well say it. You can have that 5. But let me tell you that you be a loser later if you's lied to me.
What I gotta lie for? Ain't it over, Ma?
I ain't never refused to pay for what I gets.
All right, well, here goes. Me and Nat Walker were strolling up Lenox Avenue one night last week, about 6:30. Right ahead of me, I seen Dad. He was walking long, slow as usual with his head bent, not seeing nobody. All of a sudden, a woman coming down the avenue went up to him and stops him. He looked up, kind of dazed like, and stared at her like he'd seen a ghost. She just shook him by the arm and laughed. By that time, we come alongside, and I got a good look at her. She weren't young and she weren't old, but she looked, well, I just don't know what she did look like. But, you know, all laughing and happy and tears in her eyes. I didn't look at her much for staring at Dad. He looked all shaken up and scared like. Not scared like neither, for I seen him smile at her after a minute. He ain't never smiled like that before. Not since I can remember. Nat said, reckon your dad's met an old gal of his. But I only laughed. Struck me kind of funny that mean an old flame of his? I meant to ask him about her, but went clean out of my head.
Was she tall?
Kind of. Plenty taller than you.
Light?
So. Lighter than you.
Pretty?
Maybe. She wasn't no chicken, but she was good to look at. Ain't no use to moping, Ma. That ain't the first husband to take dinner with his girlfriend. Funny, though. He's never doing it before. Well, so long.
Hattie rouses and starts clearing the table. The hall door opens quietly and Dan enters. He takes off his overcoat and still stands there hesitating. Hattie frowns darkly, but does not speak.
Sorry I'm late, Hattie. I ain't had no supper. Reckon I'll get it and eat in the kitchen.
Reckon you'll hang that coat and hat in the hall where they belong.
Sure. Don't know how I'll come to forget.
He goes out with his clothes and returns almost immediately, then passes on toward the kitchen door.
Keep out of that kitchen.
But I'm hungry, Hattie. I ain't had nothing to eat.
Where you been? Where you been that you ain't had nothing to eat? You can't say, can you?
I went to see a friend of mine.
6:30 ain't calling hours. Listen, you's asked to dine.
It was important. I had to go.
Had to go where? You ain't said where you's been. You ain't got no intention of saying, has you?
Dan moves once more towards the kitchen.
You keep out of there. Keep out of my kitchen. I kept your supper till 8 o'clock. You didn't come home, and I stowed it out.
Fix something else. I don't want much.
You ain't gonna messing in my kitchen. You's hiding something, Dan Peters, and I was gonna find it out for long. You ain't gonna throw no dust in my eyes no second time. Not if I knows it.
All right. I don't want no fuss, Hattie. I'll go out and get something.
You can fix the furnace before you go. I've got enough to do running a large house, stop fixing fires day and night.
You could have asked Charlie to do it.
Charlie don't never fix no furnace. It's your job when you's home. And I ain't got no reason for to wish it on Charlie.
I'll fix it when I get back. I'm hungry now, and I just want to go out and get something to eat.
Hattie listens for the click of the iron gate, then hurries to the window and peers after him. The door opens softly, and Mrs. Wilkes sidles in.
What you want?
I declare, Miss Peters, your sure does look put out. Anything the matter?
Did you come down here to tell me that?
Of course not, Miss Peters. It's pretty cold upstairs. I suppose the fire's going as usual?
Yes.
It's getting colder, I reckon. It's warmer down here. As I always tell Mr. Wilkes, give me a pile of floor in the basement anytime. If there's any heat going down there, you're sure to get it. Of course, I ain't complaining, Miss Peters. See, Mr. Peters got home pretty late tonight, didn't he? There's a man with regular habits. I often tell Mr. Wilkes that I wish to goodness he was a home-loving man like Mr. Peters. Well, I reckon I'll be going up again since I see you got company.
Company?
There's a lady to see you. She's sitting up in the parlor.
Who let her in?
Mr. Wilkes did. He seen her on the stoop. She was just going to ring the bell when Mr. Wilkes come up with his key. See, she asked for Miss Peters and he told her to sit in the parlor. If there's ever a man who's stupid, it sure is my husband. Instead of going down to tell you or hollering to you or sending her on down, he comes upstairs and asks me to come down and tell you. He ought to send her down in the basement.
Well, sit her down, will you? Oh, some fine day, I expect we'll be cleaned out if you're always gonna let strangers in the house like that. That way.
That you might want to see her in the parlor. I reckon she ain't no thief. Not judging by her looks.
What she look like?
She's tall, but not too tall.
Light.
Lighter than you and me.
Pretty.
Well, y'all know her all right. She ain't never been here before, as I knows, but you know her from the way you describe her. Well, so long. I'll send her down. This hall sure is cold.
Hattie rips the apron from about her waist and pushes it quickly into the sideboard drawer. She goes up to the mirror over the mantel, but one look at herself is all she can bear. The door opens and Clem enters. In one glance, Hattie's burning eyes take in the tall, well-dressed figure. If Clem's glance is less piercing, it is nevertheless just as comprehensive.
It's been a long time, Hattie. I don't want to use surprise, Hattie. I know you's waiting to hear what brought me. It's a long story, Hattie.
You can start at the end.
At the end?
At the end. What you come for? You come to get something? Is it damn?
The same old Hattie. The years ain't changing none.
Oh. And you ain't changed none? Years ain't changed you none?
Yes, I reckon they has, Hattie. I suffered a plenty.
Oh, you think that you's the only one?
No, I can see that you's not been over happy, Hattie. And I knows Dan ain't been happy.
What reason you got to bring all this talk about suffering? You've been seeing Dan again, ain't you?
Yes. I met him just by accident one night last week.
And you've been seeing him since?
Yes. Every night. I've been going downtown to meet him around 6 o'clock, and I was right home with him on the L.
And tonight you had him out to dinner?
No. Tonight I couldn't go to meet him. I was called away on business. I ain't seen him tonight.
Did he know you was coming here?
No.
Why didn't you tell him you was coming?
He wouldn't have let me come.
Well, say what you come for and go. It ain't easy sitting here listening to you talking about Dan.
He's almost driven him crazy. And you said you loved him.
Where you go to? Where you been all these years?
South Virginia, where I'm from. If I'd have known you was gonna be unkind to him, I'd have never let him go. Dan ain't known a day's happiness since I went away.
He told you that?
Yes. I can forgive you for taking him from me and the way you done it. But it ain't easy forgiving you for making him suffer.
And that's what you come up here to tell me?
Dan's dying here, right under your eyes, and you don't see it. He's dying for kindness. He's dying from hard work. He's dying from the want of love. I could always read him like a book. He won't talk against you, Hattie, but I can see it in the way he looks, in the way he looks at me.
Oh.
He's shabby, all of him. Hat and shoes and coat. If he had one suit for every 5 your son has, he'd be pretty well dressed.
You forget Charlie is Dan's son as well as mine.
You set him against his dad. He sides with you every time, doesn't he?
Do you read that too? And the way Dan looked at you?
If you had brought up Charlie different, you might have held on to Dan. Instead of that, you just brought him up to look down on him.
You through?
You don't need Dan, and your son don't need him. Well, since you don't got use for him, I was gonna take him from you, Hattie. Now you knows why I come.
Huh. Funny how thoughtful you's got since I was last seen you. You come into my house 20 years ago as a friend, and you took Dan when I hadn't been married to him a year. You didn't give no announcement then about what you was gonna do. You just took him. And me expecting to be the mother of his child. But now that you've got more stylish, more ladylike in your ways, you come to tell me very politely that you're gonna take him again. Is it my blessings you waiting on? Huh? You don't need no permission.
Yeah. You don't understand. You never understood, Hattie.
Maybe not. Some things is hard to understand.
Cole, Stan, and me could go off together. Without your permission, you knows that well enough. It's been done every day, but we don't want to go like that.
You mean Dan don't want to go like that?
He's wrong, Hattie. Dan ain't thinking of nothing or nobody but me. He's for quitting and never saying a word to you, but just going off, me and him together. But I ain't gonna go like that this time. It's gotta be different.
Different? How?
Hattie, I want you to free Dan. You owes it to him. He ain't never been free since he'd known you. Will you free him?
Free him? How?
Give him a divorce.
A divorce? To marry you?
Yes. It ain't like you loved him, Hattie. If you loved him, I couldn't have asked you, but you only hold on to him through spite. You hates him, maybe. You treats him like you does.
You knows I can't keep him if he wants to go. Reckon I knows it too. Well, if he wants to go, he can go.
Thank God. I didn't think you'd do it, Hattie.
You could have spared yourself the trouble of coming here. Just gone off. We'd been more like you.
But how? You'd have to know about the divorce, Hattie.
Divorce? I ain't saying nothing about getting no divorce.
But I thought, what do you mean, Hattie?
You didn't know divorce first time, did you?
That was different.
I don't see it.
Well, it was. It's got to be a divorce this time.
I see Dan's moral has improved some since you went away.
It ain't Dan what's holding out for divorce. It's me.
Oh, then it's your morals that's been improving. Well, they could stand improving aplenty. You're wasting your time and mine and Dan's about letting him go. He could have gone all these years. I wasn't holding him back. He'd have gone if he'd known where to find you. I know if he ever found you, he'd have left me. Well, he didn't find it till now. But long as I got breath to breathe, I ain't gonna say yes about no divorce. If he can get one without me, let him get it. You hear me? Now, if he's through, you better get out of here. I ain't responsible for what I was gonna say from now on.
Hattie, for God, you're hard.
I was soft enough when you first stepped on me. If I was hard now, it's your fault.
Hattie, I ain't told you the real reason why I want a divorce.
Well, I ain't interested none.
Still, I want you to hear it. It's something that I ain't told Dan.
The door opens quietly and Dan enters.
Come in, Dan. I hope you don't mind me coming to see Hattie. I just had to come.
You won't do no good.
Maybe not, but I had to come.
I'm sorry, Hattie. We
Hattie knows everything, Dan. I told her.
Clem, what was you saying when I first came on in? I heard you.
I didn't want to tell you like this.
We can't go back now, Clem. Since we're in the middle, we gotta get through somehow.
I didn't mean to beg less than I had to.
You don't have to.
If it was only me, but it ain't. It's for my Lucy. Dan's child. Dan's child. I didn't tell you, Hattie, and I didn't tell Dan. What would have been the use? She's a woman now, and good and pretty, and she thinks her dad died when she was a baby, and she thinks I'm a good woman. She's proud of me.
As if unconscious of Hattie's presence, Dan grips Clem's hands. They look at each other.
Think you's a good woman. That's what she expects me to give Dan a divorce.
Yes. Yes, you see, don't you?
Yes, I see. Go. If that ain't funny, she thinks you's a good woman. Oh my God.
Hattie?
Tell me more. Tell me more about this new relation of Dan.
I've worked hard to get her the chances I didn't have. She's been to school, she's got an education, and now she's gonna get married to a fine fella that will be able to take care of her. And now you see that I can't just go off with Dan. It's got to be proper. A divorce and all. You see, don't you, Hattie?
Mother and daughter, double wed.
And you'll do it, Hattie. God will bless you, Hattie.
How come you's passing on blessings? Hmm? You know a lot about blessings, don't you? Wonder if you knows as much about curses.
Now, Hattie.
You don't know nothing much about curses, does you? Well, you's cursed, Clem Jackson. Cursed. You's always been cursed since the day you set eyes on Dan.
Hattie, you ain't got no call to go on like that.
Dan was cursed when he set eyes on you, and I was cursed when I took you for a friend.
I'm going, Hattie. I see you ain't gonna give in.
Why? What's your hurry? You better hear what I'm gonna say. Curses. Yes, we've all been cursed, Clem. My Charlie's cursed, and your Lucy. Too bad.
Don't you call my Lucy's name along Yours.
Too bad. Wonder how she'll feel when she hears what a good woman you is. Huh?
What? You wouldn't. You wouldn't.
Oh, wouldn't. Well, sure, I'll find her. If it takes the rest of my life, I'll find her. It's too good. Too good to keep. Ooh, how she'll stare when she knows her ma was a prostitute. And her dad.
Damn you, Hattie. Don't you say no more.
I tell her all, leaving out nothing.
You couldn't, Hattie. You couldn't, Hattie.
How she played me false when I trusted her, and how she lied to me, how she ruined my life and come back to take the leaving once more. Nah!
Say no more, Hattie.
You gonna shut my mouth, will you? Ha!
Let's go, Clem. Let's go.
Come on. Is that keeping you? Take your street walker back where she come from. You can give Lucy my regards. Tell her that a friend's gonna call on her real soon. Old friend of her mom's.
You don't shut your mouth, Hattie. You promise you.
Shut my
God
mouth.
Almighty.
How you thinking you gonna shut my mouth? Never.
You don't keep away from Lucy. You promise not to say nothing to Clem.
Never. And you can't make me. I tell about this good woman, this thief, this dirty-minded hoe.
Dan grips her by the throat and forces her back against the table. Her arms claw awkwardly, then drop to her sides. Clem utters a low cry and springs upon Dan, tearing wildly at his fingers.
Dan, let go! Let go, for God's sake, Dan!
Dan thrusts Clem from him. She falls heavily from the chair, head striking the marble base of the mantel, an ugly sound. She lies very still.
Dan, you come near killing her.
I'd have done it too, if you hadn't been there.
She hit her head an awful crack.
Had his head harder than most. Come on, Clem. We can't stay here now. She'll be coming to for long and raising the roof.
Dan, there's blood coming out the side of her mouth.
She'll be wagging it. She'll be wagging it again before you knows it.
Dan, I wish you hadn't done it. It won't do no good.
I couldn't stand it no longer. I clean lost my head when she called you what she did.
Yes, I know. Poor Danny boy, I don't see how you stood it all these years.
I was always thinking about you, Clem. You shouldn't have left me behind. You should have told me where to find you. You should have told me about Lucy.
Yes, I see that now. You belong to Hattie, and I thought...
I never belonged to Hattie. Let's go, Clem. Oh, we can't stay here. Why? What's wrong?
I just gotta think of Lucy.
Lucy?
Yes, Lucy. She's your child, Dan, and she don't know about us.
And me? What about me and you, Clem? Clem?
You mustn't. And then there's Hattie. You just gotta think of Hattie. Dan, we better try to bring her to. Get her some water, Dan?
I won't touch her.
It ain't human leaving her like that. Help me lift her, Dan. She'll catch her death on this cold floor.
Very unwillingly, Dan assists. Together, he and Clem get Hattie into a chair.
Oh, like ice, Dan. Her fingers all stiff and... Oh, Dan, feel her pulse, Dan.
Hattie's body, unsupported, sags awkwardly against the table. Dan quickly seizes her hands, feeling her pulse. He tilts her head backward, looks into her face, feels her heart, then straightens up.
Dan, she ain't dead.
Dead?
Dan, what do we do? What do we do?
You go back to Lucy. She needs you.
You needs me more, Dan.
No, you can't help her. I don't stand no chance. Reckon I owes it to Lucy to send you back to her. I ain't never had the chance to do nothing for her but this.
I can't go, Dan. Don't make me.
No,
Dan takes Clem in her arms and kisses her.
We gotta think about Lucy. We sprung each other bad luck, Clem. Hattie was right.
But I loved you, Dan, and you loved me.
I ain't never loved nobody else.
What do they do to you, Dan? They won't kill you. Will they, Dan?
Of course not, honey. Reckon I'll get 20 or 15 years. Maybe 10.
He buttons her coat and draws her firmly toward the door.
10 years?
I'll spend them all dreaming about you, Clem, and Lucy. Now, you mustn't grieve, honey. Go now, for God's sake. I hear somebody coming down.
He pushes her out forcibly. The door is shut. The outer door slams. Dan listens for the click of the gate. Finally, he turns and looks down at Hattie.
I'm sorry, Hattie. For God. I didn't mean to do it.
Well, a butterfly flits on wings.
Harlem, a summer evening. Thomas Jefferson T.J. Kelly is sprawled upon the bench, his straw hat on one side, his coat on the other. He is reading a copy of the news.
Holy gee. What do you know about that? Some looker. Hello. Woman gives birth to 4 healthy sons. Gee, no quartet. 4? Father overjoyed. My hell he is. Gee. Suppose something like that was supposed to happen to me.
TJ grabs his coat and hat and prepares for flight. Suddenly he stops short, resumes his seat, takes his hat off and places it on the bench.
Reckon them things only happen to foreigners. Sure.
2 tired-looking women trudge into view.
Oof. Any wonder we can't find no place to sit, huh? Look at them sprawling on that bench. God, it's hot.
Say, move up, will you? You ain't got no lease on that bench.
Reserved.
Reserved? Can you beat that for nerve, Miss Clark?
I should say not. Take your arms off that bench, you loafing nigga.
Now see here, angel face, and you too, grape nuts. I know you're both dying for a real live hug from an honest to goodness he-man. Well, come on and get it. I won't charge you nothing.
Can you beat it?
I like your gall.
They all do. You're not the only one.
A woman can't walk through the park no more without being insulted.
Oh, come now, Miss Henry. I wouldn't sit down there if he was a grab the whole bench.
Me neither.
Honey, say, don't you know, honey, I love you so. It's cutie sweet, it's mighty fine, sweeter than watermelon on the vine.
Georgia comes along the path from the direction in which the women are walking. She glances at their angry faces and passes on. They stop and look back at her. As she approaches TJ Kelly, he rises, makes an elaborate bow, and sweeps his belongings to one side. Then TJ Kelly kisses the girl, Valentino fashion.
Brazen.
Pussy.
Hey, TJ, did you see them old hands stare?
No, I couldn't see nothing but you then, honey.
Well, they sure did stare. Reckon they was jealous, all right.
Not a doubt of it.
Say, you don't hate yourself, do you?
Nah, ain't no use hating the person you have to live with.
Meaning who?
Meaning me, Thomas Jefferson Kelly, at your service.
Oh.
Say, what's the idea moving down there?
You get along pretty well by yourself, don't you?
Sure, but I guess along better when you're around.
It was a hell of a day, TJ.
Oh, it sure was. 90 in the shade. To see the way people shop in all this hot weather. I don't see how they do it. I have to stand there by that cage till I'm ready to drop and talk about dumbbells. While those birds can't read some of them. They stand by an elevator marked down and expects it to go up. And the other way around. And the fool questions they ask. Gee, think of all my education being lost on those people.
Poor TJ. You just had too much school and that's the matter with you.
2 terms in high school. And don't you forget it. Yeah, it's funny. Me standing there in a Palm Beach suit with brass buttons and a hat to match with more brass buttons. Sometimes a man gets to thinking, here I am, a starter. Just one step better than the man who runs a cage. Gee, that's a hell of a job.
It sure is. I'm glad you just started, TJ.
Yeah, but there's something about the name that just don't hit me right. Starter. Starter. It seems to get over into a man's life somehow. Starter.
Gee, that's funny.
Is it? Well, I just don't see the point. That's all.
But TJ, you know it's a sewing, right? Well, I ain't never told you about my place because it's so low down. Italians and Jews and colored all in together. It's a dump. Well, I'm what they call a finisher. A finisher on dresses. See? That's what I meant. You being a starter, me a finisher.
Holy G, that's a good one. Say, Georgia, we make a good team. We would.
Quit your kidding.
No kidding. You know, kid, I've been thinking. Say, why don't we get married? Huh?
I don't know, except you never mentioned it before.
Well, I'm mentioning it now. See? Think it over, kid. Well, what's the answer?
Has you got any money, TJ?
Money? Say, have a heart. That's a fine question.
For a starter.
Say, you making fun of me?
Of course not, TJ.
Well, you're taking your time about answering, ain't you?
How much you got saved, TJ?
Ain't that a little personal, honey?
I don't think so. Because if you don't feel like saying.
I have $55. That's not so bad for...
A starter? You mean you ain't got more than $55 and you working steady?
And me dressing like a gentleman and paying dues in the club and 2 societies and a lodge and taking you to the theater twice a week.
Movies. And don't you forget it.
So that's how you feel about it, is it? Don't I take you to dances? Didn't we go to Coney last week and a cabaret Monday night? How the devil you expect me to have money?
Nobody asked you nothing about marrying. You's the one who mentioned it.
Sure, but that don't give you no right to ask about my bank account. Reckon you wouldn't say how much you got in your bank.
Well, since you're dying to find out.
Who, me?
Since you're dying to find out, I've got $200.
What? Well, that ain't so much.
More than you got?
$200. Say, you know what, Georgia? That's enough money to start on. We could get a nice room. Why, I've got a peach of a room. And we can get new fixings, pay down a deposit. You know, I could arrange all that at the stove. They know me. $200 ain't so bad. Say, you know, many a man's got married on less.
You ain't saying nothing about your 55.
55's all right as a starter, but it ain't nothing for the man to talk about.
And what about a ring, TJ?
A ring?
You ain't never heard about that before, have you?
Sure, but... Well, all right. I get you a ring. A beauty, too. Get me?
See here, a boyfriend. I'm a regular girl, and I knows a Woolworth special when I sees one.
Say, do you think I put a Woolworth over on you? How'd you get that way?
I reckon from associating with them Jews and Italians. Say, those folks wear diamonds.
To work?
Sure.
Fake. That's all.
Fake nothing.
Well, kid, what do you say?
I don't know, TJ. I was reckoning on the 200 for rainy weather.
It ain't gonna rain no more.
In my business, there's plenty rainy weather. Last year, I was out of work altogether 4 months.
What? How come?
Laid off, nothing doing. It's a regular thing in my line. Dull season, strikes, union dues.
But you could always find something else, couldn't you?
No, it works like everywhere. And there's a time I need my savings, TJ.
How about waitressing? Some nice...
Nothing doing. I ain't no hashlinger.
You mighty fussy, ain't you?
If we get married, TJ, you wouldn't mind my staying home when things would slow, would you, TJ? Gee, It'd be great to be able to stay in some mornings. You know, TJ, the thought of hitting the Chili's have driven plenty into matrimony before now. Gee, to lie in bed on cold winter mornings when the sleet and the rain are battering at the windows.
For God's sake, woman.
What's the matter, TJ?
Say, all this talk about cold and sleet and staying in bed, gee, it's enough to give a man cold feet.
Cold feet? Well, if you have cold feet, now's the time to say so.
She rises. TJ Kelly grasps her hand. She
Hey,
draws her down again.
it's a fine way to spoil a good night. Talking about winter mornings.
He kisses her.
Look at there, honey.
Where?
Over there. Gonna be a moon tonight.
Sure enough.
Not so bad. And look at there, honey.
Where?
Down there. All those lights and those people and this park. We owns a whole show.
Quit your kidding.
God. Harlem sure is great. Look at them lights.
Say, TJ,
What you thinking, honey?
is we engaged?
Oh, do we have to go all over that? Keep your eyes on them lights, honey. And forget it.
The park is very much darker now. George's head snuggles up against TJ's shoulder. His arm slips about her waist. The moon man hangs his lantern in the heavens, and we do the only kindly thing we can think of. We draw the curtain.
Easy to say that you are man and wife, but it's hard to get a pound to stick through life. This that right one ain't easy found. I ain't gonna marry or settle down. That means I ain't gonna marry or settle down.
I want to acknowledge some sources and places that got me through trying to dramaturg in the pandemic. First of all, Kathy A. Perkins, who wrote Black female playwrights before 1950, and just so many articles that really paved the way for anybody who was trying to find their way into the works of EULALIE SPENCE and other writers, Mae Miller, other writers of the 20s and 30s. She really just pioneered this research and has been a godsend to me this month as I try to come back to this piece. The NYPL, when they were open, I did get to look at the EULALIE SPENCE papers in the archives at the Schomburg, which were so helpful, so informative. And then there were so many things that I saw that were possible that I could not get to because life happened the way it did. But they did, the NYPL had some expanded access into digitized records, and that was also so very helpful. The W.E.B. Du Bois papers at UMass Amherst, digitized correspondence, figuring out the saga of the Kriegwald players, so useful, so appreciative, and Ancestry.com. Because, sometimes when you're not really sure to go, the census is the best thing, is your best friend, and that was really helpful.